Welcome back, boxing fans, to another great show with Sean on boxing for his afternoon lunchtime walk. So, some breaking news popped off, and unfortunately, when we talk about American boxing, this tends to be the majority of the conversation we have. Fighters, fathers, talking out their asses, fighters asking for more than they're worth, fighters making excuses not to give us fights that we want, even if the fight's not even a huge fight or a fight that's really that big of a fight, probably not even a headline fight on a major card. But we're talking about American boxers. It does not matter. These guys all overpraise themselves and think that they're worth far more than they actually are. And we see this time and time again. In this case, obviously, this is Schofield, Floyd Schofield, who was given a big opportunity to fight on a Turkey Al-Ashika mega card in Saudi Arabia against world champion Shakur Stevenson. This guy who was just moving from prospect to contender level was given an opportunity to fight for a world title, the WBC title. He talked a load of shit on social media. His dad talked a load of shit on social media, only for them to pull out of the fight when it actually was going to happen. They blamed it down to illness, but of course, this was not the first time they had pulled out of a fight. They also pulled out of a fight on a Jake Paul undercard as well. So this is the kind of behavior we've noticed multiple times from this team. Now, Top Rank, Bob Arum, just made an offer for Schofield to fight up-and-coming superstar prospect Abdullah Mason in a fight that would be a huge fight for hardcore boxing fans. Obviously, for casuals, this isn't the fight that would really grab their attention because Mason and Schofield haven't quite got to that level yet. But this is the kind of fight that Abdullah Mason has been looking for. This is the kind of fight Abdullah Mason's fans have been looking for. The kind of fight that could really sort of launch him into the casual boxing fan stratosphere, where now he becomes a household name and becomes one of the biggest, most talked about fighters in boxing today. Obviously, he just had a fight recently scheduled against Cabrera, a fighter who had fought Zepeda and Isaac Cruz. Gave Isaac Cruz a very good fight, ended up getting blown out by William Zepeda. But for an up-and-coming prospect, a guy like Cabrera, who's tall, long, skilled, would have been a very good prospect. A good opponent, a very good step-up opponent. But he ducked because he was injured or something of that nature. And when he was offered the fight again, once again, he walked away from it, basically ducking that fight. And of course, now this is what Floyd Schofield's doing. They offered him this fight. This is a guy that, based on his previous behavior, would be lucky if he's getting anybody actually chasing after him and making offers for him, right? Especially a guy that has never had a top fight, never been paid big money. So the fact that this guy thinks somehow he is this fighter that's on a certain level where he deserves millions of dollars for an opponent, as an opponent, it's delusional, mind-numbing. And of course, his father perpetuating this all over social media. You know, we see fathers, these dudes, for the majority of the time, literally are talking out their asses, making their sons look bad. And pretty much every time a father's son is represented, it's mostly the father that's doing the talking and really reflecting negatively for the most part on their son. We saw that, of course, with Norman, who was offered $1.7 million in a unification fight with Boots Ennis, which would have been a career high payday and an opportunity to become the man at 147 pounds and put him in position for bigger and better fights moving forward, especially now with Haney and Garcia and Lopez moving to that division. Some guys that really have money behind them and name recognition. You beat a Boots, all of a sudden you're a hot property and a guy that potentially can get one of these fighters in the ring for a career high payday. And if you win that, I mean, and you're working with Turkey Al-Sheikh, you know, the sky is the limit potentially. But his family and primarily his father turned it down. talking about how it was too low and they deserved more. 1.7 wasn't enough after they had to pay fees and taxes and everything else. So they were asking for $2 million. So literally you walk away from the fight over $300,000. And the question is it because you were so confident that you feel you're going to win? Are you actually betting on yourself? Or is it the opposite of that? You don't have confidence in yourself. You're looking for the biggest payday possible so that even if you lose, you know at least you got paid, right? And maybe that's the case. Who am I to criticize the way a person maneuvers? But when your father consistently is talking over social media and for the most part contradicting himself and being a blatant hypocrite, that's just a bad look. You see this all the time with David Benavidez, which has been ridiculous. His father just came out recently and talked about how they're eager and willing to go to the UK to fight Anthony Yarde because they want to do a world tour. But yet, his son just talked about not wanting to go to Saudi Arabia and only wanting to focus on fighting in Vegas because that's where his fan base was and he was happy with the way things were going. Again, Benavidez, his team, blatantly contradicting themselves. They do this all the time. Now with Schofield, apparently what we heard, and who knows the details and the truth behind this, but apparently he was offered $2.5 million. So more money than, Brian Norman was offered to fight Boots Ennis, all to fight a prospect. You imagine when you're a champion, you're offered almost $2 million in a unification fight. Schofield's being offered apparently $2.5 million to fight Abdullah Mason in a fight that has no title on the line. Neither guy is a world champion. Neither guys are big names at this point in their career. Yet you walk away from $2.5 million. I mean, if that's not delusion, I don't even know what to call it. And what makes it worse is his father comes out and says that yesterday's price is not today's price. Basically alluding to the fact that, well, this is how much money we were offered to fight Shakur Stevenson by Turki al-Sheikh. So now we expect to be offered more money to fight Abdullah Mason. How can you expect to be offered more money to fight for not even a world title? Obviously to fight Shakur for a world title in a big card as a replacement opponent, you could expect that maybe they're going to sweeten the pot, right, to get you to go over there and help them out. But now you're being offered a fight with a prospect, obviously a super excellent prospect who people have big expectations for, and they want to basically use you to build him up. I mean, we all know why he's being picked, but as far as the level of opponent, this is a great fight. Two very good young prime fighters, both looking for the come-up fight, both trying to build up their name. Literally, this is what boxing and boxing fans want. They want guys at this level to step up and take on these kind of challenges. Then when you become a champion, you're already going to be very respected. People are already going to be very aware of who you are. They're going to be able to talk about some of the great wins you had because literally you had great wins. Unfortunately for the Schofields, they're looking really bad right now, walking away from a Shakur Stevenson world title fight and now being offered apparently the same amount of money to fight a prospect in Abdullah Mason and basically saying they're being underpaid or, giving a lowball offer and making excuses. And very similar to Brian Norman, who ended up fighting for, I think, $300,000 in his recent fight after walking away from $1.7 million. That's what's going to happen to Schofield. He's going to get an offer of like $250,000 to fight on a Golden Boy card against a mediocre opponent that nobody knows, and literally walked away from $2.5 million. But let me know in the comment section, what do you think? Would you have been excited to see this fight? For me, I think this would have been great. I mean, I'm not that high on Schofield. He's kind of like the poor man Sean Porter as far as I can see. But I'm high on Abdullah Mason. And as far as a tough opponent, a real good opponent for an up-and-comer like him, this would have been a great fight, a real litmus test, and one that I would have been very stoked and excited about. Now, it looks like everybody is basically ducking Abdullah Mason. Nobody's interested in that work. Maybe we can get a Javier Herrera fight. The tough 22-year-old Cuban obviously is similar to both Mason and Schofield, right? Both around the same age, both undefeated, all three undefeated, and all three looking very good. I would say out of the three of them, Schofield is probably the least impressive. So maybe he could be an opponent. I think these Cubans, they would be far more interested in jumping an opportunity to get big paydays. But we will see. Hopefully, we can get Abdullah Mason in with a very good opponent. I heard some people talking about him fighting Tevin Farmer. Obviously, Farmer would be a great opponent, but he is coming off of 3 losses in a row. But I guarantee you, if Top Rank offered Tevin Farmer $2.5 million, even though he lost his last 3 fights, I guarantee you he would jump at the chance to get into the ring with Abdullah Mason. But let me know in the comment section below. What do you think? Who would you like to see Abdullah Mason fight next? And do you think Schofield was getting a lowball offer at $2.5 million? Or do you think that's well above what he's worth? I personally think it's well above what he's worth. He would have been very lucky to get $1 million really to face Abdullah Mason. And that's probably a fair offer, to be fair, at that point of their careers. But I look forward to seeing what you guys have to say. So make sure you leave your comments in the comment section below. Remember to like, subscribe, and share. If you're a basketball fan, you can jump on my basketball channel, Sean on Ball, and I'm going to be talking about the up-and-coming NBA playoffs later tonight. So, see you there. Peace out.